Welcome, everyone. Today, we're exploring a concept that really gives you a powerful new lens, a way to understand these subtle shifts happening in societies all around us. It's called subversion, defined, I think, rather chillingly as the art of breaking from within. And understanding this, well, it isn't just academic, is it? It feels crucial for every citizen.
That's exactly right. Um, this topic is incredibly timely, hugely important. We often think of war as, tanks, guns, direct conflict, but we have to remember that maybe the most dangerous war, it's often fought silently, through thought.
That's a really powerful point, yeah. So in this deep dive, we're going to pull from historical insights and also a very specific framework to really try and unpack this insidious process. Our mission really is to walk you through the four stages of subversion. These were outlined by Yuri Bezmenov, who was a former Soviet KGB propaganda specialist. He detailed this whole process. Okay, let's unpack this then. To start us off, what is subversion exactly? And I mean, how did Bezmenov make this term so well known?
Right, so subversion, at its heart, it's the process of deliberately destroying, well, any nation, society, or system, but without direct overt warfare.
Hmm.
Bismunoff, yeah, he drew from his own experience in the KGB, and he meticulously laid this out as a four-stage process. It's essentially a form of psychological warfare.
Hmm.
Targets individuals' thoughts, the very fabric of society, national integrity.
Wow. It sounds like a kind of slow-acting poison working from the inside out.
It is, very much so. Bezmenov himself, he described it as a plan, so gradual that people don't really feel it happening until, they suddenly realize.
Yeah.
And by then, everything's fundamentally changed. So the first stage, he called it demoralization,
Hmm.
which really just means moral degradation. And this stage is remarkably long. It's designed to influence an entire generation, typically lasting about 15 to 20 years.
15 to 20 years. Wow.
Yeah. During this long period, a society is sort of incrementally impacted. New ideas, sometimes false facts, messages designed specifically to break their trust in their country, their institutions, their core values.
Can you walk us through some real-world examples? Where might we see this kind of demoralization playing out historically?
Sure, certainly. Think about Soviet Russia's tactics in Eastern Europe. They gradually worked to eliminate Western democratic ideas, religious values,
Hmm.
using schools, media, slowly eroding what was already there. Or look at America in the 1960s. That was a period where you saw extreme leftist ideologies really pushed hard in universities.
Mm.
Students being taught their country was, racist, imperialist, morally bankrupt.
Mm.
And even here in India, for instance, the colonial education system, it often deliberately alienated people from their own history, their religion, their culture.
Yeah.
And I mean, even today, you'll find people who perceive Indian values as backward because of that long influence. The main point here really is that demoralization isn't just about lies. It's about systematically dismantling shared values, national identity,
Yeah.
creating a vacuum almost.
So it's like planting a seed, a subtle poisonous seed in the collective mind, and just letting it slowly take root over a generation.
Precisely. That seed is designed to be a slow poison, eroding and ultimately destroying national identity and cohesion. Okay, moving on from there, the second stage is destabilization.
Mm.
This means actively creating instability within the system itself. So at this point, the focus shifts. It moves to disrupting key pillars, like the nation's economy, its foreign relations, its defense systems.
Right, that sounds much more active, more
Yeah.
aggressive than demoralization. But I wonder, how do we tell the difference between, say, genuine social unrest and this kind of deliberately engineered destabilization? Are there like specific signs?
That's a really sharp question because the lines can blur. Often, engineered destabilization just amplifies cracks that are already there.
Yeah.
Think about the 1979 Iran Revolution. Yes, there was demoralization over years, but then it moved into severe economic turmoil, widespread unrest,
Mhm.
leading to crisis. The monarchy had been undermined for years,
Yeah.
right? And then those efforts were, well, weaponized.
Yeah.
Or in Latin America, like the social unrest around Allende in Chile, a lot of upheaval, external involvement, exploiting internal divisions.
Yeah.
And closer to home, you could look at India's emergency in 1975. Controversial, obviously. Civil liberties suspended, dissent repressed. You could see that as an example of deliberately created destabilization, fostering fear, uncertainty. Basically, this stage weaponizes the distrust sown earlier, turns ideological divides into actual tangible chaos, makes the system feel broken from within.
So this is the point where people's basic trust in the system, in their government institutions, it really starts to shatter.
Yes, exactly. And where trust breaks down, well, that's fertile ground for agitation, protest, unrest. and it can be actively directed.
That is truly unsettling. So, okay, a society's been demoralized, then destabilized. What happens when it finally hits rock bottom? What does this crisis phase look like?
Right, the third stage is indeed crisis. And yes, it is the most intense, the most visible phase. Crisis is that definitive turning point where everything just collapses. Politics, the economy, maybe even the social bonds holding things together.
What historical crises really illustrate this peak of subversion?
Well, there are many examples. Consider the French Revolution. That followed decades of demoralization, huge economic imbalance. Eventually, people took to the streets, violent overthrow, collapse of the monarchy, the Russian Revolution, 1917, another clear case. Anti-monarchy ideas were sown, then destabilization, ultimately,
Right.
civil war, collapse of the old order, and tragically, India's partition in 1947, a stark example where ideological communal politics were amplified, exploited. It created this devastating crisis, reshaped the subcontinent, massive violence, displacement.
It's a chilling thought, isn't it? The idea that a crisis might not just happen, but could be orchestrated. But how sure can we be? I mean, weren't these just natural societal breakdowns? Is it always deliberate subversion?
That's an excellent point, and it really speaks to the subtlety of it all. History's complex, right? Breakdowns often have multiple causes. But Bezmenov's argument was, when you see that consistent pattern demoralization, then calculated destabilization,
Yeah.
the crisis often serves a purpose for whoever is employing subversion. It's about compelling your system to break itself from within. No need for an external attack. The goal is often to force a choice, usually one that benefits the orchestrator.
Right. Okay, so that leads us to the final stage, normalization. What exactly does that mean after all the chaos?
Normalization. This is the period when the new system, the new regime that came out of the crisis, basically tells people, okay, everything's normal now, stable. But crucially, this is a period of new ideological control, a new definition of reality. The public is led to believe stability's back, but it's often a stability enforced by the new power, with very little room for dissent.
That sounds like a very dangerous kind of calm. How can a society tell the difference between genuine recovery and this imposed normalization from a potentially harmful power? What are the red flags?
That is the critical challenge. One big red flag is suppressing information or dissenting voices, like Nazi Germany. Normalcy was declared after Hitler took power, right? Order after turmoil, but it was authoritarian control, rapidly crushed any opposition. Similarly, post-revolution Iran. The new Islamic regime announced stability, but dissent was systematically suppressed. A new, rigid ideology imposed. And Soviet Russia under Stalin, an illusion of normalcy was pushed hard, even while, the gulags and repression were happening behind the scenes. So normalization isn't just a new government. It's psychological coercion, really, exploiting people's exhaustion, their desire for peace, to redefine reality and cement the subversion.
Wow. This stage really is maybe the most dangerous then, because people are exhausted, they want to believe it's fine now, that the worst is over.
Precisely. The real chilling victory of subversion is achieved when people stop asking questions, when critical thought just gets replaced by accepting the new imposed reality.
So, bringing this to today, what does this all mean for us now? Is this process, the subversion, still happening, maybe in different ways?
Yes, absolutely it is. The underlying principles haven't changed, but the tools, they've evolved dramatically. I think social media, fake news, deep fakes are getting sophisticated, digital polarization. These are all new weapons in this ongoing psychological war. And today, subversion seems much more decentralized, almost viral. It can create this sort of constant state of low-level subversion, harder to spot, harder to distinguish from legitimate dissent sometimes. It's not always top-down state actors anymore.
Given all that, what can we actually do as individuals, as societies, to protect ourselves?
Well, there are practical steps. First, I'd say increase our media literacy. Really learn to evaluate information critically. Question the source. Look for bias. Second, sharpen critical thinking skills. Question assumptions. Seek different perspectives. Don't just accept things you see online. Third, deepen your understanding of your own history, your own culture. A strong sense of identity, shared heritage. That's a powerful defense against attempts to rewrite your past. And finally, actively support independent journalism. Good, fact-checked information is vital to counter disinformation and, well, reveal the truth.
That was, truly a deep dive, very eye-opening. Thank you for walking us through these complex and, frankly, crucial ideas.
It was my pleasure. I think the central takeaway here is pretty profound. Subversion is a war strategy that often wins silently. It wins until people understand it, until they recognize the stages for what they are.
Indeed. So we really encourage you, our listeners, share this deep dive, talk about it with people around you, help raise awareness, and maybe the next time you come across information that really pulls at your emotions or fundamentally challenges your core beliefs about your society, just pause. Ask yourself, is this an organic shift in my understanding? Or could it be a carefully placed seed designed to change my perspective without me even realizing it?